Speak to this matter, if you will, because there are some who think that they are a bit confused about this, particularly if you look at the grounds of petition where it speaks about the qualification of the contestant. Some think that now that this judgment has made it a pre- and post-election matter, why don't we just perhaps, because if you look at that several other sections where it talks about INEC accepting the candidate or rejecting the candidate, all of these are pre-election matters. But then the grounds of which you can challenge an election, that could also fall into a post-election matter. So there are those who are suggesting, should we perhaps amend these grounds of petition, maybe the first part where it talks about qualification, to be strictly a pre-election matter?
Well, in the past, we used to have matters that are pre-election and then post-election. But you see, if you look at this provision, matters relating to whether or not a candidate in the first place is qualified or having been validly nominated by the party is pre-election, quite sure. But if the error continues right up to election, then it must fall under the ground as provided for Section 138, either sub 1, which talks about a candidate not being qualified. Even though some argue that subsection 1A relates to non-qualification of age, of insanity, or not having a proper education, and that subsection 1B is what this tribunal considered because it says there was non-compliance. My point is, whether it was a pre-election or now has come to the election tribunal proper, it may seem that it has fallen under some of the grounds as provided by Section 138 sub A, either A, B, C, or D. And I believe it is A and B.
I'm just wondering, though, I mean, I think a lawyer was here yesterday who said that a federal high court did declare Section 140, subsection 2 as ineffectual. Is that a possibility? Can that happen?
I have not read the decision of the federal high court. But if it did, then it will be interesting to note that that decision is not the decision of a final court in the matter. That means the decision can also be put to test to determine whether or not the federal high court was right in making that decision. Now, the federal high court, according to what we read, we haven't seen the judgment, stated that 140 subsection 2 of the Electoral Act contravenes on the powers of the court to make either reliefs or consequential orders. There is no doubt that the court is empowered to interpret the law. But you see, the argument even right now is the Section 140 subsection 2 is bringing the National Assembly, that is the legislative arm, and the judicial arm on a head-on collusion. Some argue that it is a legislative judgment, while others are saying it is judicial legislation. But the fact is, and the law is clear, that the court exists to interpret the law. And in interpretation of the law, the court is guided by the rules of interpretation. Now, if the Electoral Act, Section 140 sub 2, the National Assembly, empowered by law, enacted that provision, and the whole essence is so that we will avoid what we used to have in the past, where there is a chaotic disorder after the result of election is announced, the court will hand it to whoever they want, because of the confusion surrounding the election. But now it says that if the election is the election is annulled, you nullify the election on the basis that the winner was not qualified. The only relief available to the court is, number one, not to declare the person with the second highest vote as the winner, but to order a fresh election. That part of the law, is there any inconsistency? Is that part of the law not clear? Is that part of the law ambiguous? If it is not, then the court must give its ordinary and literal interpretation. So the Federal High Court's decision can still be challenged at the Court of Appeal.
That's what, quite a number of people say as well. But if you also look at it, they're also saying, how is it going to work if at the end of the day they have to order a rerun? Do you think that the PDP would be able to present a candidate again?
That is another matter for the court to decide. If you order it, you see, you do not talk about the strength of the bridge until you get there. And you do not give up because you haven't gotten to the bridge and you have heard that you cannot cross the bridge. We get there, we cross it. It has happened in our electionary process in Nigeria. If the court orders a rerun, then the idea is whether or not Darius and PDP could participate, having been found not to be qualified to contest in the first place. That question is what either Darius will go to the Federal High Court to get it determined, or any of the aggrieved parties will go to the Federal High Court to determine. And in view of election petition being a sui generis and the fact and the need to have matters before it decided expeditiously, it may seem that the Federal High Court may have or may give the judgment before the election proper, and then we'll be able to know whether this disqualification, as is being canvassed, is proper in law. PDP led evidence to say we did not conduct the primaries in Taraba because of security situation, rightly or wrongly, and we did in Abuja. And there is no evidence that there was no primaries. The evidence that was led by INEC was that the primaries was conducted without due regard to the provision of the Electoral Act, and that the notice given to INEC was not in conformity with the statutory required time. So these are issues still for the court to determine, but we get to the bridge before you cross. Because you are afraid of the bridge, you shouldn't reach a conclusion that may keep somebody out of the race.
All right, let's get your perspective on this matter. It's a follow-up to what you spoke about, because you say that the intention of the Electoral Act 142 is not to declare the other candidate winner, but to give or to conduct fresh elections. That's what you're saying, isn't it? Okay, yes, then tell us, what is the intention of, if you declare or rerun or fresh elections to be conducted, maybe in this case where there are two, and the other candidates, and then there's a question about, especially when it speaks about qualification of that candidate, is the intention to ensure that all of them participate, qualification or not?
The court is not permitted to speculate. The court is interpreted. And if a mango falls before the court during court proceedings, if it does not form part of the matters canvassed before the court, even though the court has seen the mango, the court is not bound to comment on the mango. And the court is not a Father Christmas. So the point is clear, that determining whether or not somebody will be qualified consequently if you order a fresh election should not be the basis for giving a judgment if there is a clear provision of the law that says no, declare fresh election. So you go ahead as a tribunal, declare fresh election, give them the time period within which the election should be conducted. And when they go to the bridge, then they will now see the intricacies associated with the crossing.
Let's go back. Let's go back to this issue. The crux of this whole issue has to do with the pre-election matters, which has to do with the primaries of the PDP. And if you look at the reasons given by the PDP, saying that based on security concern, they had to move it to Abuja, the question some other legal minds like yourself have been asking is, were there special congresses as stipulated by the Act in local government areas of Taraba State?
Certainly, in the circumstance, it is safe to presume that there were no Congress, or congresses as required by the Electoral Act in Section 87. But you see, the court, when determining a matter, will look at the overall interest of justice. Like I cited earlier, the case of Rivers Governorship Election Tribunal, it was challenged that the tribunal ought not to, in the first place, sit in Abuja, that the tribunal ought to sit in Rivers, because there is a clear provision of the law that tribunals are to sit in their various states. But what did the Court of Appeal do? They looked at the overall interest of justice, and they said because of insecurity, it's a valid ground for us to apply the doctrine of necessity and say it is proper for you to do it there. Now, there was no Congress, or there were, but not recognized by INEC, as it were. And then also that the notice of the nomination of a candidate was submitted after that period. The question is, shouldn't the court have considered the issue of insecurity as a ground to look beyond the non-compliance, so to speak, quote unquote, in the overall interest of justice, and then agree with the submission of PDP? If the court felt that it is a clear provision of the law, therefore they are bound to strictly obey, then why shouldn't the court also be bound by the strict provision of Section 140 subsection 2? There was no Congress.
In other words, if you look at it, if the PDP didn't go within the stipulated 21 days to submit such a name also to the umpire, INEC, doesn't that look like something that you would say it wasn't in order? They have a 21-day period to make that submission to the INEC. And now INEC has come forward to say, wait a minute, we weren't actually served within that stipulated, I think that section 85(1) of the Electoral Act that gives a 21-day period. So doesn't that also make sound judgment for the tribunal?
Yeah, that may be a valid ground for nullifying the election, as was held by the tribunal. But the point is, let me even ask you, if you were asked by your boss to come to Abuja office and you were told that you have a meeting by 8 a.m. tomorrow morning, you get to the airport in the evening and the flight was cancelled, as a result of which you are unable to come, are you going to be fired? Shouldn't your boss consider the fact that these are circumstances beyond your control? Now, when you say there was an insecurity situation in a state, then shouldn't the court consider that because of this insecurity, it is obvious that the time provided by the Act could have been overlooked because it obviously could have been affected by the virtue of that insecurity. Now, these are matters that the Court of Appeal will also look at, that though the tribunal refused the submission and follows strictly the provision of the Electoral Act, in the interest of justice, is it proper, is it right that the court refused to consider the issue of insecurity, rightly or wrongly? So these are matters. I am not saying it's a conclusive proof. I am not coming out to tell you the court is wrong. I am saying that the judgment and the issue arising therefrom really clearly tells you that there are issues to be canvassed at the Court of Appeal. And
Sorry about that. Then if you look at that same issue that you just raised, at the question you asked, you also look at it that it occurred 5 days outside the stipulated time. Perhaps, don't you think if it had happened about a day after the stipulated time, or even 2, it would have also been considered? But a whole 5-day period shows that, well, it looks like the PDP house wasn't in order leading up to that particular primary.
Right, that can be also, I agree with you that if the statute provides that you are to submit within a period, and you exceed that period, that is why the tribunal exists as a trial court, so to speak, because evidence must be led either to support the view or to explain why it was not complied with. And because the court also exists to do substantial justice, if the issue of insecurity was raised, whether the court was right to have considered or close its eyes from that fact. Now, you cannot, and we have seen that over time, even in judgments, when finally they go on appeal at the Supreme Court. Supreme Court have corrected a number of judgments in that regard, where they bring in the issue of overall interest of justice. If there was no insecurity situation, but PDP, because of one issue or the other, decided not to conduct the primaries as stipulated and not to submit within time, it is understandable. But if you canvass your argument that there was insecurity, then the point is, shouldn't the court consider that? And the reason why this point is even becoming clearer and loud is because of the recent decision of the Court of Appeal in Rivers, where it applied the doctrine of necessity and overlooked strict provision of the law.